Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for everything business. I'm your host, Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Nuri Otus on the line, and he's a founder and CEO over at TechSmarter. Nuri, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing awesome, and I'm glad to have you on the show today. Big topic we have to cover today. So your technology, TechSmarter, compliance, a lot to go into. So let's just start with an overview of TechSmarter, the company, and what you do.
Sure. TechSmarter is the only cross-platform compliance service. We have built a service that addresses the recent regulations from various oversight agencies, FINRA, FDIC, pick your 3 or 4 letter acronym agency. And what they have done is they have enacted policies in addressing the information archiving of messages, SMS, MMS, and social media. This is in addition to email and voice recordings, which have gone on for about 30 years. We are the only plug-and-play enterprise mobile communication, compliance, and governance service that seamlessly captures all non-oral communications on all mobile devices. So this includes Android, this includes iOS, and what makes us unique is that no other firm has an iOS or Android solution that archives native messaging applications. And what that means to most people is that the company that you work for, whether it be a bank, whether it be a registered investment advisor, whether it be you're a stockbroker, you now have to back up your text messages. You now have to back up your Facebook posts. You got to back up your LinkedIn, and give or take 80 other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
This data that we archive is owned by the employer and is put into a double encrypted database, which keeps the data private unless the employer has need to access it. So basically the data can sit there, and if you're among the 99% of the people that don't attract any attention, no one's ever going to look at your messages. If you're among the 1% that might, then your employer is able to be compliant with document demands and other processes in order to make people comfortable. So we look at this as a service that fixes and helps people that are being and acting in the right way, gives the necessary agencies the necessary information to address people that don't do things the wrong way. So this is basically, it's a safety that is for any and all parties involved.
I love what you're doing. I see it in 2 different ways. So number one, obviously you want to protect the company. Obviously you want 3 different ways. Obviously you want to protect the company. Obviously you want to protect the employee, but the third thing is you also want to allow, there's a whole nother side of the coin on this, because I remember when I was a financial advisor, so years ago, and we couldn't text, or we couldn't use, like, our clients. We had phones, but we weren't supposed to text or anything like that, and you had to be on the phone and all these other things, and it was just a big compliance hurdle. But let's just be honest, from the financial advisor standpoint, with the right type of technology like this, their clients want to text. Like, they want to text them. They want to do business through text. So why should you be forced not to do business with a client in the manner that they want to do business in, because compliance doesn't allow you to, because it's not set up, because they don't have TechSmarter. Like, so, and so now your client, you tell them, I can't text you, sorry. They're like, what do you mean I can't text you? I can text anybody. Why do you mean you can't text? Well, my compliance doesn't let us. Why? Because we don't have TechSmarter. We can't store the data. We don't have the technology to do it. So, there's just so many benefits to what you're doing.
I read a report recently that over 80% of people prefer to conduct business using text messaging. And on the other side of that, 70-something% of users want to communicate with text messaging. There are 145 billion text messages sent per day. It's more than phone calls.
How many?
Emails.
Say that again. How many?
145 billion.
Oh my gosh. Oh, my heart.
So think about something, right? If you have an employer who's using their phone, and look, the reality is I have friends that are RIAs, I've got friends that are stockbrokers, and unless they are using a phone that is managed by some type of a mobile device management system, then they're using text messages. And these are good guys. They're not doing anything wrong. I'm not implying that at all. But what they are doing is they are communicating with their customers, yet there's no oversight. There's no ability to audit. There's no ability for an agency such as the SEC or the FDIC or FINRA to come in and say, hey, what's the communication that you had? And in the case, like I've got a buddy that's with Goldman Sachs, and he uses his phone. He uses his personal phone outside of the Goldman Sachs company issued phone to communicate with people. This is exactly what our service is meant to have oversight. I can assure you that this guy does nothing wrong. The guy is impeccable. However, he's among the 99%. What we want to cover is we want to cover the people that don't do the right thing, or when a person does do the right thing and a investor comes back and says, hey, I have this problem or I have that problem. If you have a record of all the communication, everything, which we ensure, then, and we also, when we provide a report to the agency, we certify that it's a full and complete record of all communications. This is going to give a user the ability to say, look, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. The miscommunication or the misunderstanding is not my issue. And so basically it can be something that resolves issues quickly and easily.
Man, that's awesome. I love what you're doing, and I love the advancement. I love compliance in general. It's more of a hot topic. Doesn't matter the industry. Been talking a lot about financial firms right now, but compliance across the board, corporate governance. You think about board members, all these other things, high profile positions, and the compliance side of things. Just the importance for it just keeps on increasing, and text definitely has to be addressed because of the billions, as you mentioned, of messages being sent. And that's the way people prefer to communicate. So just like once upon a time, it was probably a crazy thought for them to record like phone calls, like an inbound phone call. Could you imagine when that started, when firms had to start doing that? It's like, wait, we're going to record every single phone call that comes into the firm. So you call a big company like Vanguard or Schwab, and every single phone call is recorded. You're like, wait a minute, we're going to record every single one? So in my mind, I see the tech side of things for these company-issued phones as that's going to be just like that at some point, which is good for compliance because it covers everybody.
Well, part of the thing is that the regulators require this data to be backed up, archived for a period of 6 to 10 years. So obviously, there's a significant amount of information that's going to be gathered. And obviously, it's important enough for, depending upon the region, depending upon who has oversight, but a period of 6 to 10 years, that's a significant amount of time in which to hold on to the data. One of the things that we've employed as we built our system is we employ what's called the principle of least privilege. And this is a concept that's defined by Jerome Salzer. And it's basically every program, every privileged user of the system should operate using the least amount of privilege necessary. What this means is that your personal information is going to be kept private. This is a really important part of it because when a person uses a single device for messaging, they communicate with their children, their parents, their significant other. And is there going to be private information in there? That is going to exist. In the month of November, just using my phone, my personal habit as a point of reference, I sent and received over 5,000 messages. Of those 5,000 messages, the storage for those 5,000 was nearly 130 megabytes. Now, add that up by a huge bank that has 6+ figures in number of employees, and you can begin to gather the simple volume of what we're talking about, right? I'm one guy with a small company that's growing, and I'm pleased by that. I'm blessed. But 5,000 messages in a month, I mean, I don't know what the math is, but that's over, what's that, 150 a day, over 150 a day?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about it that way until this month. So what we've built is something that addresses the needs and the requirements of significant organizations. And we've done it in a way where it's done in the least intrusive way possible. The companies that existed prior to us, who I refer to as the incumbents, they require a secondary messaging platform so that the data doesn't go through the carrier, it goes through a secondary service. And what we've done by doing this is that at any point, somebody who's using the secondary service can opt to completely go out of the archiving area and send a message that nobody has any oversight of. Where with us, we pick up everything. And that's really important because, look, if a person has nefarious intent, they're thinking.
They're obviously going to change that. They're obviously, if they're doing something wrong, they're not going to opt in to have that one recorded, right?
Correct, and that's what happened. And we ensure that everything is backed up. We ensure that everything is available. And the best part about it is that this is all permission driven, and only the employer can access the data if necessary. And one of the things about this is because compliance has precedent over privacy, this data must be retained. So if you work for a financial institution and subsequently you leave, this financial institution still has the requirement to hold on to that data depending upon who oversight is from, going back to this for 6 to 10 years. I was told the other day that the state of Oregon requires 10 years of archive retention.
So Nuri, if somebody's listening to this and they want more info or to follow up on your technology, what's the best way for them to reach out and to get it?
Well, they can email us at sales@techsmarter.com. They can go to our website, which is www.techsmarter.com. TXT. It's text like a text file. TXTSMARTER.com. And you can also find us through the FINRA approved vendor site. We're on the Google Play Store, or you can call us. We have a phone number at the bottom of our website. We'd love to talk to you. We're a young company. We are very aggressive, and we've approached this in a way that solves what we consider to be one of the biggest problems in finance. And to simply give perspective, and we talked a few minutes ago about 145 billion messages a day, but here's what our service addresses. Our service addresses the fact that with regard to compliance sanctions in 2018, the total amount of fines for sanctions were in excess of $350 billion. Wow. So by having this information, any organization can avoid significant sanctions. We opened an office in London last month, and our director in London met with the people at FCA, and he was told by them that come the beginning of this next quarter, which is 45 days away, FCA is going to demand that this type of data is retained. And since we're already having conversations with various financial institutions, we already know that some of them are non-compliant and they're scared. The thing about UK law that's very different than the US is in the United States, you pay a fine. In other parts of the world, the officers and directors go to jail. So they take this really seriously. And the most interesting part of this, and we talk to banks and other types of financial institutions every day, what amazes me is how many people look at me and go, oh my, I had no idea. And these regulations have been advised by FINRA and the SEC for over 2 years. So there were notices on this 2 years ago, but completely was missed by many financial institutions. And part of our job is to educate people, which is why you, Adam, you and I are speaking today, because this is what we do. We want to educate people. We want to help people. And whatever the needs are, our service is agnostic in terms of where we store the data. We have relationships with AWS and GCP and IBM. We can place it there into the cloud. It can be placed in an on-prem server. We can basically make our service work to whatever the processes and uses of our customers are.
Perfect. Well, hey, Nuri, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about TechSmarter and all the great work you're doing there to keep firms compliant. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. And if you're listening to this on our YouTube video, leave us some comments there on Mission Matters Business. Love to continue the dialogue there. And Nuri, thanks again for coming on the show.
Sounds great. Thanks, Adam. Have a great day.